Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new video. Before you stop listening, imagine this for a moment. What if 1 year from today, you could watch English movies without subtitles, speak confidently with people from around the world, understand YouTube videos easily, and even use English to create new opportunities in your life? Now imagine that the only thing standing between you and that future is one decision: to never give up. Many people believe that learning English is only for smart people, talented people, or people who started young. That is one of the biggest lies ever told to language learners. The truth is simple. Every fluent English speaker was once a beginner. Every person who speaks English confidently today once struggled with basic words. They once made mistakes. They once forgot vocabulary. They once felt embarrassed. They once thought, maybe English is not for me. But they kept going. Today, you are going to learn one of the most powerful lessons about language learning. If you truly understand this lesson and apply it, your English can improve far more than you ever imagined. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may completely change the way you think about learning English forever. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to learn more in the next videos. The story of Antonio. Antonio was a young man who dreamed of speaking English fluently. He lived in a place where almost nobody spoke English. He did not attend an expensive school, he did not have private teachers, and he never travelled to English-speaking countries. In fact, his English was almost zero. When Antonio first started learning, he knew only a few words, such as hello, goodbye, and thank you. Whenever he heard native speakers talking, it sounded like one long, confusing sound. He could not separate the words, he could not understand the sentences, and he felt completely lost. One day, Antonio watched a video of a man speaking fluent English. The speaker sounded confident, intelligent, and comfortable. Antonio thought to himself, I wish I could speak like that. But then another thought entered his mind. Maybe I am too old. Maybe I am not smart enough. Maybe English is impossible for me. These thoughts stayed in his mind for weeks and slowly weakened his motivation. Then something happened that changed his life. He met an old teacher who asked him a simple question. If you plant a seed today, will it become a tree tomorrow? Antonio laughed and replied, Of course not. The teacher smiled and said, Then why do you expect your English to become fluent overnight? That simple sentence changed everything. Antonio suddenly realized that he had been expecting instant results from a process that naturally takes time. The secret most learners never understand. Many English learners focus only on results. They want to speak fluently immediately. They want perfect pronunciation immediately. They want to understand movies immediately. They want thousands of vocabulary words immediately. But language learning does not work like that. English is like building a house. You cannot start with the roof. You must begin with the foundation. Every word you learn is a brick. Every sentence you read is a brick. Every video you watch is a brick. Every mistake you make is a brick. Day after day, week after week, and month after month, those bricks slowly become a strong and beautiful house. The problem is that many people quit before the house is finished. They study for 1 week and expect miracles. They study for 1 month and expect fluency. When they do not see immediate results, they stop. Years later, they still wish they could speak English. Meanwhile, another learner studies just a little every day and eventually becomes fluent. The difference is not talent. The difference is consistency. Success belongs to the learner who keeps going, even when progress feels slow. The power of small steps. One day, Antonio decided to stop worrying about becoming fluent.
Instead, he focused on becoming slightly better every day. He learned 5 new words daily. Only 5. Many people would say that 5 words are not enough. However, Antonio understood something important. 5 words every day become 35 words every week. That becomes more than 150 words every month. Over a year, that becomes nearly 2,000 words. Suddenly, 5 words no longer seemed small. Antonio also listened to English for 10 minutes every day. Not 2 hours, not 5 hours, just 10 minutes. Some days he understood almost nothing, but he continued anyway. Week after week, his ears started recognizing familiar words. Month after month, English sounds became clearer. Eventually, he could understand entire conversations. Not because of magic, but because of consistency. Small actions repeated every day create extraordinary results over time.
Why mistakes are your best teacher. Many learners are afraid of making mistakes. They stay silent because they fear embarrassment. They avoid speaking because they fear criticism. They wait until their English becomes perfect. The problem is that perfect English never comes before practice. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. Would you expect to ride perfectly on the first day? Of course not. You would fall, wobble, and make mistakes. But every mistake would teach you something valuable. English works exactly the same way. Every mistake shows you what needs improvement. Every incorrect sentence teaches you a better sentence. Every pronunciation error teaches you a better pronunciation. Antonio finally understood this truth. He started speaking even when he knew his English was not perfect. Sometimes people corrected him. Sometimes he felt embarrassed. But every correction helped him improve. Years later, those mistakes became the foundation of his fluency. He learned that mistakes are not signs of failure, they are signs of progress. Stop translating everything. One of the biggest obstacles for learners is translating every word into their native language. At first, translation can be useful, but eventually it becomes a prison. Imagine someone says the word apple. A fluent speaker immediately sees an apple in their mind. A beginner often follows a longer path: English word, native language translation, and then a mental picture. Antonio realized he needed to think directly in English. Whenever he learned a new word, he connected it to an image instead of a translation. When he learned the word car, he imagined a car. When he learned house, he imagined a house. When he learned happy, he imagined a smiling face. Over time, English became more natural. He stopped translating every sentence and started thinking directly in English. This became one of the biggest turning points in his journey. Reading changed everything. One day, Antonio discovered the power of reading. At first, he chose very simple texts, such as children's stories, easy articles, and short paragraphs. Many learners avoid simple material because it feels too easy, but that is a mistake. Simple material builds confidence, vocabulary, and understanding. Antonio read every day. Some days he read only 1 page. Other days he read several pages. Whenever he saw a useful word repeatedly, he remembered it naturally. There was no forcing and no stress. It was simply repetition. After several months, he noticed something surprising. Words that once seemed difficult now felt normal. Sentences that once looked complicated now felt simple. Reading was quietly transforming his English, day after day. Listening is the bridge to fluency. Many learners can read English quite well, but struggle to understand spoken English. This happens because reading and listening are different skills. You can know a word on paper and still fail to recognize it in conversation. Antonio solved this problem by listening every day. He listened while walking, exercising, and relaxing. At first, he understood very little, but he did not quit. Gradually, his brain adapted. He started recognizing familiar expressions, then entire sentences, and eventually complete conversations. The amazing thing about listening is that your brain learns patterns automatically. The more English you hear, the more natural English becomes. The day Antonio wanted to quit. After many months of study, Antonio felt stuck. His progress seemed slow. He still made mistakes, forgot words, and struggled with certain expressions. One evening, he seriously thought about quitting. He wondered whether all his effort was worth it. Then he remembered the teacher's lesson about planting a seed. A seed grows underground before anyone can see it. For a long time, nothing appears on the surface. Yet beneath the soil, roots are developing and becoming stronger. English learning is often the same. Progress is happening even when you cannot see it. Antonio decided to continue. Months later, something incredible happened. He started understanding videos that once seemed impossible. He started speaking more naturally. He started thinking in English. The progress he thought was invisible had actually been growing all along. The difference between winners and quitters. The difference between successful learners and unsuccessful learners is often very simple. Both groups start motivated. Both buy books, watch videos, and dream about fluency. But when challenges appear, they react differently. Quitters see difficulty and stop. Winners see difficulty and continue. Quitters focus on obstacles. Winners focus on solutions. Quitters look for excuses. Winners look for opportunities. Success in English is rarely about intelligence. It is usually about persistence. The learner who studies consistently for years will almost always outperform the learner who studies intensely for only a few weeks. Build an English lifestyle. Antonio eventually realized that English should not be something he studies only occasionally. It should become part of his daily life. He changed his phone settings to English. He followed English pages online. He watched English videos, listened to English podcasts, read English articles, and wrote short notes in English. This made a huge difference. Instead of studying English for 1 hour and forgetting it, he surrounded himself with English throughout the day. The language became familiar, comfortable, and natural. Eventually, English stopped feeling like a school subject. It became a tool for communication and a part of who he was.
The power of belief. Many people fail before they even begin because they convince themselves that they cannot succeed. They tell themselves they are too old, too busy, too slow, or too untalented. But history is full of people who achieved extraordinary things after others said they could not. The first step to success is believing improvement is possible. You do not need to believe you are perfect. You only need to believe you can improve. That belief creates action. Action creates progress. Progress creates confidence. Confidence creates even more action. Everything begins with belief. The final lesson. Years passed, and Antonio became fluent in English. People often asked him for the secret. They expected some special method, hidden technique, or magical shortcut. But Antonio always gave the same answer. There is no secret. People looked disappointed until he continued. The secret is that there is no secret. I simply refused to quit. He explained that fluency was not built in a day. It was built through thousands of small actions, thousands of words learned, thousands of sentences read, thousands of minutes spent listening, and thousands of mistakes corrected. Each small step seemed insignificant at the time, but together they changed his life.
And that is the lesson you should never forget. You do not need perfect grammar today. You do not need perfect pronunciation today. You do not need thousands of vocabulary words today. You only need to keep moving forward, one word at a time, one sentence at a time, one page at a time, and one day at a time. Right now, somewhere in the future, there is a version of you who speaks English confidently, a version of you who understands movies, books, conversations, and videos with ease. That future version of you is not created by talent. It is created by today's decision to continue.
So when learning feels difficult, remember Antonio. Remember the seed that grows underground before anyone sees it. Remember that progress is often invisible before it becomes obvious. And most importantly, remember this powerful sentence. Never compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Every expert was once a beginner. Every fluent speaker was once confused. Every success story started with a first step. Today may be your first step. Keep going, keep learning, keep believing. One day, perhaps sooner than you think, you will look back and realize that the English you once thought was impossible has become a natural part of your life. The journey from zero to advanced English is not won by the fastest learner. It is won by the learner who refuses to quit.